Good afternoon, everybody. I want to talk to you about the narcissist and healing processes, because most people don't talk about this, but the healing process for you during your time away from the narcissist is it's probably as bad as when you're with them, almost to some degree, because at least you don't get that daily abuse, right, of them devaluing you and hurting you and not knowing what to expect and walking on eggshells. You're getting your autonomy back, yes, but you're sunk into a codependent state, even if you weren't really feeling like you were codependent before you met them, because that's what they'll drag you down into. They'll drag you down into a codependent state, and if it left up to them, they'd put you in diapers and have you sucking your thumb. That's how they would regress you. Because a lot of people say that they make you frozen almost. They just, meaning like you don't advance in anything, you're just stuck, and you just go in a circle to nowhere from wherever you were. But really, it regresses you, and it regresses you more and more in every month, every week, because the time that you're with the narcissist, you're getting conditioned. And that's why they talk about Stockholm syndrome, and the way the narcissist operates is like how they would in POW camps, how they would treat people in POW camps. I mean, just all the things that they do, the tactics and maneuvers they would use to get information out of people or to abuse people, and it's the same tactics, same thing. It's kind of weird how CIA and FBI are doing the same kind of tricks, and the CIAs of this world and the FBIs of this world and the military industrial complex uses the same tricks of the trade that the narcissists use, and they'll tell you that it's just psychological and it's just instinct or something for fight or flight, and I have to disagree with that. There's witchcraft involved. Anybody dealing with this type of stuff, that the amount of time that you ruminate on them, and then you were doing all that hot and cold with them for so long, and they've messed your endocrine system up, you're addicted to them, and you have to walk all that out and shake all that off somehow. And you want to do it in a healthy way, because you got to keep things together. A lot of people are single and they don't have a lot of a support system that they can trust, and it's something that you kind of realize when you go through narcissistic abuse. It's like the people around you, may not be good people. Maybe some of them are, usually some of them are, but it makes you reassess the whole situation, because you are stuck second guessing yourself, quadruple guessing yourself, because they made you doubt yourself so many times, or gaslit your reality, that now when something happens, or you're sure of something, I mean, you have to go back to the drawing board a few times to make sure that you're not wrong, and that slows down your production in a lot of ways. It can affect you in a lot of areas of your life, and it can add to the anxiety and or depression that you're dealing with just from the breakup. These are brutal relationships, and not a lot of people understand that. And then dealing with the daily woes of life, it makes it very, very tumultuous. Meanwhile, you're looking at, you might get an image or a view of the narcissist, and they look like they're just carrying on with life just fine. They moved on to a new relationship real quick. They did everything but put you out of your misery completely, right? And you're kind of like stuck holding an empty bag. I mean, some of y'all have debt and stuff from these individuals, because they even used to like a Ponzi scheme as well, because these guys are fools, man. And they're extremely brutal. They really want to leave you in a ditch and then blame you still, when you're the one holding the moral fiber. You're the one with the ethics. And the way they drag you in, it is very insidious. It's very slow moving, but it's fast. That's slow moving, but it's fast, because it's not like they try to get you hijacked and tossed up and changed up all in 1 week or something. This is like, but over a 6-month period, I mean, you are really in a devalued, defunct state. That's what they do to you, because it's like every day, it's like they're layering a new form of manipulation onto the last one. It's like, first you might get devalued a little, right? And then you get gaslit, then you get breadcrumbed, and then they're working on coercion. Then they're mirroring back to you falsities, and then they're projecting on you every day. It's just kind of like crazy, because this stuff will, if you're not strong-minded, strong-willed, and have confidence in yourself, you'll end up in a psych ward or something worse. I know a couple people that ended up in psych wards over this, so it's not out of the realm. And you hear about people getting offing themselves from this stuff, and it's a terrible situation. These guys are evil people. Evil people. They're dealing with demons, man, and then they come to people if you're a good individual, and they want to take you out completely. And this is the kind of stuff that you don't really get this kind of stuff in church. Narcissism should be a class in church, man, because these are the individuals that are pretty much running the church a lot of times. It's very difficult because when you get off the narcissist, the first thing you go through is you get nailed with a whole lot of like anxiety and depression all of a sudden. It's just their absence, and you get hit real hard with the rumination and the fact that they're gone, especially the first time after you just went through the first cycle, and you're kind of like shaking your head like, what the heck just happened? Because it started out really good, although you did get inklings that something was off, and that was your intuition that you were pressing down because you didn't really have it honed. So when mine left me after the first cycle, I went to Home Depot, man, and I got nervous and put everything down and left it there, and I just couldn't wait to get back in the car and get home. I mean, that's how bad it was. My anxiety, my depression, how defunct I was feeling, the rumination. The rumination's heavy. And then what's sad about it is then you start to get a little bit of healing in your life, very little at that. You might go, a few months or something, man, with them calling to check on you, because this is like in the point of you're still unawoke. So you might be still in contact with them because first you're trying to chase them because you're trying to fix it because you don't know what the hell happened, and they're blaming you. And even this is the weird thing. Here you go. Here's a weird one for you. Even though you know that they're crazy and that they're the reason for this happening, and you didn't really do anything, you still are like second guessing yourself, and you're still going through the orchestration of, well, what if I did this, or what if I did that, and you're still beating yourself up about it, and you're still second guessing and triple guessing. And even it's kind of like the gaslighting is very similar too. It's like when you're being gaslit, it's like that's not the reality that they're telling you, but at the same time there's that like what if. And that's why I guess I don't know if it's when you're in the middle of the spell already, like you've already been hijacked and you're coming out of it, or I think that's the case. You're still vulnerable for a long time with whatever narcissist put you under, because your mind, your brain, and your spirit, and your body even is so overworked and so twisted. The narcissist will twist you up in understanding. Like me, you could be a sound individual. When you met the narcissist, you could be doing great, doing very well for yourself. But maybe you were coming out of some sort of traumatic things that happened. Like I went through a divorce and a death, and I lost my dog, and financially going through the divorce at the time. So I was down, and I was, still kind of healing from the relationship end of that. And then right when I got to the point where I was about to get over it, it had been several years. Damn it if the narcissist doesn't just come right around the corner. And this was the second long-term narcissist that I had in my life. I've had several for short ones. I had a couple of short ones. I'll say at least two that I can think of. But they were short, meaning I went like one cycle with them. So I don't really count those, although one of those two short ones kind of bothered me for a time. But I kind of trucked right through it. But they come stronger and more powerful as far as in their evil. They kind of get to a place to where if you don't wake up, I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this today. I'm talking from from a spiritual level and what I really truly believe. Not, sometimes I go over the construct of what the book will tell you, and a lot of times, the book has a lot of stuff that's right. But when you get into whether this is a spiritual issue or a psychological issue, I don't care which one came first, because that doesn't. I'm interested in that part of it. But when it comes to this type of stuff, I don't care what came first. All I know is that there is that component, and with that component, that's why they start out like a borderline. And it's almost like, because a borderline is, I think I kind of thought about it for a while, and it is a spiritual situation. No freaking doubt. I don't know what came first. I'll be acceptance of that. It's almost like when it comes to what came first, the spiritual issue or the psychological issue, it was probably a spiritual issue first, but the psychological component was there as well, meaning there was genetics. I do believe that there could be a genetic component to it, because if your father was a malignant narcissist and they seared their brain from empathy, then when you're born, I could see it being a potential that your love sectors of your brain could be not as genetically savvy as two individuals of humanity. When I say humanity, I'm speaking on regular people. Because if they didn't use the love sectors, it's going to atrophy, which means it's going to get to a place where if you don't use it, it gets weak, and the pathways aren't so much as they're like if you used it every day. It's kind of like when you work out muscle. What happens to the muscle? It gets larger. Why? To compensate for whatever the muscle thinks that you're doing. Or, because you could be going to the gym to handle more weight. So it's going to increase. That would be called hypertrophy. And when you get into a muscle or an organ system or part of an organ system, like a brain sector that you don't use, or you don't use not this whole system, but a piece, like, a section of it, it atrophies. It atrophies. And when it atrophies, that makes it less, it makes it weak. It loses like blood flow, like elasticity and musculature. I guess my point is like there could be a genetic component, but this is a spiritual issue. And what typically comes first is the borderline, and the borderline, I believe, comes first because I have done a lot of my own research on this, and a lot of times people have been married to one of these, and only one that you can really marry and go a long period of time, unless you have, unless you have zero boundaries, is going to be a borderline. So I think that there's kind of I'll say this, it's more common. It's more common for you to be with a borderline, and then you get married to a borderline or something like that. So you'll marry a borderline, and then the next one that will come will be somewhere in narcissism. And then narcissism, from there, it gets to like malignancies and psychopathies, antisocial, the dark triad. And those are how the levels seem to work, or histrionic or something. Because the borderline does feel some empathy. The borderline does feel some empathy. But when it comes to the narcissists, they're cold, man. They have to fake it. They can only do cognitive empathy, which means they can read you, can watch TV and see some romance movie, how it looks and operates. But this is where I think it's a spiritual thing too, is like when you, generally speaking, you're getting a borderline first. It's almost like prepping you, because you get a borderline, you're with them for however long, 10 years. I think the average for somebody to stay with a borderline, what I've seen and what I dealt with, was 10 years. After 10 years with a borderline, you just want to go, you'd rather live in a ditch. And that's what I did. I didn't live in a ditch, but I married a borderline. I was with her for almost 10 years. And it's almost like prepping you for the next one, because you had the in-house borderline for 10 years, beating and destroying you every day. But they, may not be the cheating type. And because if the cheating component was there, then, I would have left. But they're quick to cheat if you are highly empathic and you get in arguments and you operate, if you're not as compassionate as empaths can be, then they will cheat. But typically they don't cheat until it's a threat, meaning they know that you're going to leave them. But they test you every day to see if you're going to leave them. That's why half of these arguments are just to test you, to see, to give them an idea. If you argue with them and if you fight and you seem passionate about it, then they know you're staying. So it gives them a little bit of relief. It soothes them a little. Some of it, and so the other part's for supply. And, so for them to project and get fuel from you. But it's a spiritual issue. That's why they keep getting more powerful. I mean, you never get a weaker one. I mean, I don't know anybody that's gotten a weaker narcissist or a cluster B. Start out with a borderline, next thing's a narcissist, and then it gets into psychopathies and stuff. But because I thought that my ex-wife was like, she took the damn cake, I'd never meet somebody like that or anybody as bad as that in my whole life. And then I met a couple that were worse. But when you're healing, it's like you're ruminating, you're thinking about them, you got anxiety, depression, you can't sleep, your adrenal glands are messed up, you're addicted to them. You don't look good. You're not motivated to do anything. And God forbid you don't know what you're dealing with. It could be detrimental, man. Because they're evil. They're evil. I don't care what they started as. I have sympathy for whatever they went through when they were whatever. Outside of that, I don't continue to have sympathy for somebody when they're just beating, destroying good individuals for no reason. I have sympathy for the situation that they dealt with in the moment of time that they dealt with it, if that makes sense. Because I feel like we all would. But to carry sympathy for them now, for the way that they act and operate, hell no. They're ruthless. That's why they're witchcraft in physical form.